It is possible to set up your figure for your walk cycle, or in this case I have a run cycle, so that the figure moves across the page in Photoshop before you bring it into Premiere. So to do this, I'm going to want to have my full cycle around 16 steps. I happen to have 12 here. Um, if you don't have transparent backgrounds yet, you can select all your layers and then you can go to multiply and you'll be able to see all your figures simultaneously. Yes, it can get a little bit jumbled, but when you're doing them one by one, it won't be quite as hard. Um, or like I've done here, I'm going to go ahead and select the background and delete it. I've already deleted it from the others, so that, and that only works if I have a solid white, so that I can delete the background. And now I want to take a look at how my run cycle is working. So I'm going to go ahead and, after I've created my animation timeline, make frames from layers and see how he's running. And you can see, as is often the case because of how we trace, usually from bottom to top, he's running backwards. So there's actually a very easy way in which we can reverse the order of the layers by selecting the first one, holding down Shift, selecting the last one, going to the Layers menu, Arrange, and Reverse. Now note that we reversed them on the layers, so now it goes from 12 to 1, but my timeline is still based on my last setup. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this timeline and replace it with the current layers. And now at least he is running forward. Put that on repeat. Now this is great for him running in place, and so it's always a good idea to go ahead and save this file under a name that says running in place, in case you're going to need to do one where you have your figure running in place and the background moving. And then I'm going to start to prepare for him to run across the page for quite a distance. So to do that, I'm going to go to canvas size. First, let me just check my image size. And since I got this off the internet, it wasn't correct. So you always want to make sure your height is 1080. Okay, so now when I go into image canvas size, and if I look at this in pixels, I can start, I want to figure out how far it's going to go. Well, it's like how far is his stride? How long do his, the feet spread apart? Well, it's about this distance, which is about half my thing here. So if he was going to run across, he's going to end up off either end. So I'm going to go ahead and double this at least. I could always come back later and make it bigger. And, oops. And then I am going to clear out my timeline again because I'm going to need that to be fresh later on. And I'm going to start looking at my frame by frame. So let's see. He is starting here. Oh wait, what happened to my canvas size? Okay, so let me double this. There we go. And I'm going to use this move tool up here, and I'm going to put auto select and show transform on there, because that way I can have most of my layers showing, and then as I grab one I can see that I'm grabbing it and place it where I want it to go. I'm going to hold down Shift so that I keep the feet aligned, and I'm going to click on the next figure. And I want to, so let's see, actually this is going in the reverse order. So let me start at the bottom. Okay. So this is going to be my first guy running across the page. Then I'm going to select the second one, and it's going to be all about, right now, if the toe is lifted up in the air, whatever it is that's making contact with the ground, that's what I want to line up. So So right now I want to line up that heel. Then I turn on the next layer, and you notice the auto select will automatically select him and select the layer that he's on. And so now it's the heel and the flat of the foot. And then I have the next one. So each one of these figures is still putting his foot down, so that foot stays in exactly the same location. Now when I get to here where the heel's coming up, it's about aligning the toe. If this is starting to get jumbled, I can turn off some of my other layers. And I'm going to line up that toe. Other thing I can do is I can, if I just reach up into the toolbar, into the ruler, I can pull down a guide. So I can have that lined up approximately where the toe is, and I can keep going. So I'll get the next guy, and again that's about the toe because this foot hasn't made contact with the ground yet. And now here it's a little different because if I put him down along this guideline, I can see this toe's actually come up in the air. So how do I do this now? This foot's on the ground, this foot's in the air. Well, I'm going to think about it. I go, okay, I don't want to line up that toe because now he's, unless he was moving down a hill. So I want to think about, okay, this heel is what's making contact with the ground. If he's running forward, okay, maybe that toe is aligned just above, or maybe it's a tiny bit forward. You kind of have to think about, okay, what's the cycle of the run, or run yourself and get a sense of what's happening. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm happy with that. So I pick up the next figure, and now it's all about this foot's heel and eventually this foot's toe. So I'll line up the heel there. Now I've got the toe. Make sure I'm in the right tool. Okay, now I'm lining up the toe. And so this should be a complete cycle now. You can see that he starts pushing off the ground. So you see this is a little bit different than this. He starts pushing off the ground, one foot down, the opposite foot down, and then this gets him poised for this figure will actually be the next step again. But we don't want to repeat it, otherwise he'll be stuck in that step twice. So this is a full walk cycle. So here's what's kind of cool now. If I wanted him to run even further, I can click on one of these and shift select the other one, and then either go to the drop down here or hold down the control or right click, and I'm going to say make a group. And about walk cycle 1 or run cycle 1. You can see inside here you still have all your layers, but it's been nicely grouped. So let's say I wanted to make him run an even further distance. I'm going to go back to image canvas size, and let's increase this again. So let's see, I went from 15 to 30, so let me go to 45 now, or in pixels. Oops, no, don't want to do that in pixels. And then do Command 0 to see the whole thing. So now if I select this group, I can move the whole batch of them. I could still come in here and select an individual layer if I needed to move something independently. I could do that. But what I want to do is repeat this group. So remember, this foot is the continuation of here. So I'm going to hold down Option, and you notice the arrow changes from just black to black with a white arrow. That means it's primed to duplicate. Or I could right click or come up here and say duplicate group. And then it's going to be in exactly the same place. I'm going to pull this over now. So either Option drag or duplicate. And now I want that toe to line up with this. Okay. And you can continue increasing the canvas size and repeating this as many times as you need. And then we're going to play the timeline and we're going to see if for any reason I have these groups mixed up, then it's going to look a little weird when I put it into the timeline. So now I'm going to go ahead and say make frames from layers and kind of hold my breath and cross my fingers and toes, and let's see how he does. There he goes. So pretty cool. Let's slow that down a little bit so we can really see it. And so this system would work the same in Premiere. It's just that the layers, as you know, there's limited space to see the layers, so it's a little bit more difficult in Premiere. So you can do it whichever way you like. You could even set this up so that he runs across and then go back and pull out that file where he runs in place and then continue it on after that. Okay, thank you. That's it.